Hey guys, I'm going to start a new series. If you might have noticed, this is Tamara Blodgett. Welcome to my channel, my variety channel. Now, that's something I want to talk about real briefly. I just want to touch on that I have a lot of varied interests, and what I'm best known for is what I do for a job. But I have a lot of different things I do, and not the least of which is a mother of 4 sons, and a nana of 2, and a mother-in-law of 3. And maybe 4 eventually. That'll happen, I suppose, at some point. Anyhow, welcome to my channel, Tamara Blodgett, the cheating carnivore no more. And that kind of goes in and out, guys. I'm always self-experimenting, which is n equals 1 for those of you that like mathematics and what that accounts for. I just had the kids over for 2 weeks on holiday here in the house, and so I'm really tired, and it's hard for me to go ahead and do my normal job. I'd like to recover, but I don't really have time for that. I can rest when I die, right? Subscribe and like my channel and share my message if you find it worthwhile. It's more of a catharsis channel for me. I just like to talk about my life and what I'm doing, and if there's things that anyone can adopt or they find interesting, I'm very grateful for your support. So anyway, let's get right down to it. Living foreign, I have it on my graphic, and I'm going to change my intro video and some other things so that people understand sort of what this channel's about. I write for a living. I'm an expat, which means I've chosen to live in a foreign country part of my time, other than my native country. Let me see, I like long hair a lot. I want to do more videos on that, how to style it, how to protect it, how to get length retention. I like frugal fashion, which means I dig going to thrift stores and repurposing vintage clothes or wearing clothes that are unique or different and repurposing them on my body. I love clearance fashion. In fact, this is an Old Navy cami, shelf cami. I wear these a lot if it's hot or, to bed or whatever. I'm just hanging around the house. I like that. I'm a big fan of foundation clothes that never go out of style, that I can get for a really good cost for under a certain amount of money. So I have a lot of different things, I'm interested in. So writing, expat life, beach combing, reading, crafting, hair and looking feminine, and just all kinds of different options and stuff for people to get excited about. But today we're talking about living foreign and our odyssey into buying foreign and how difficult it was and how much we wanted it. First, I just want to say that you can live somewhere else beside your native country and experience a different culture and a different climate and a different cost of living. For Hubs and I, when we first bought our casa in Mazatlan, Mexico, we knew about 10 words of Spanish, and we had no money, and we had 4 kids. It kind of, if you think about it, impossible odds. And during this video, stay tuned, because this is gonna be a series, and I'm gonna talk about first why we chose Mazatlan, what the cost of living was like, how did we do it, and things like that in this first video. And then next month I'll offer the second episode in the series. I'm going to start offering series because I just think it's easier for people to quantify their time and decide what they want to watch and what they're interested in. So when I was about 16, this is the backstory, guys. When I was about 16, I knew that I liked warmer weather. I didn't like it pretty much when it went under 50 degrees. I certainly didn't like the chilly, rainy climate that I was raised in, which was Seattle. I liked it fine if I was inside. But the problem was it rained enough and it was chilly enough that if I wanted to go out and do anything, I had to get gear on. And I just thought all of it was a big hassle. And I was very enchanted by some of these movies that were hot in the early 80s and stuff, like Daryl Hannah movie when she went and lived in Greece for a while, and I don't remember what it was called, but there was another girl there and a boyfriend, and they kind of made a threesome, which, is another video, really. But what was interesting to me was the climate. I was like, gosh, wouldn't it be great to just kind of live in a bikini? Of course, I looked great in a bikini in those days. Anyway, I had that as kind of like an ideal thing. I didn't ever really think it would happen. And then I married Hubs. And he's very adventuresome, and he likes traveling. He likes seeing other cultures and foreign places and just going everywhere. We moved around a lot as a couple. We kept dropping the kid for the first 10 years, every different house we lived in. And we have 4 sons. They're in their 30s now. The youngest one's still in his late 20s. And that's been interesting too, but that's another video. That's another video. The whole thing is another video. But when we decided to like uproot our entire family because Hubs's dad was selling a fuel and hardware store up in Bush, Alaska. And Hubs and I had always had a dream to live in Alaska. We thought it was like adventuresome and wild. But when we left our 20s and moved into our 30s and we had all these kids and all these obligations, we didn't feel like that was possible. But then Hubs's dad decided to retire, and he's like, do you want to buy our company? You know, and this is real personal information, guys. But for us, this is a way for people to understand how we afforded things, right? At the exact same time, and look at how fate works things out, how destiny applies itself here, inserts itself. We would have had to gotten a loan to come down with a down payment to buy Hubs's dad's fuel and hardware store up in Alaska. But what happened, and this is a sad thing, guys, but it also made the way, it paved the way for us to be able to do it. My mom passed away at the same time that we were considering doing this, and it was a big undertaking to have the kids leave Washington and go to Alaska and everything like that. We were looking into how to finance it and everything. We had very good equity in our houses because Hubs was a custom home builder, and every time we moved to a new house, I took that equity that he had gotten from running his own jobs and we applied it to the next house. So at that stage, we only owed about $110,000 on our house. We lived in Cedar Woolley at the time, which is north of Seattle, about an hour and a half or so north of Seattle, hour plus. We knew we could maybe finagle something, but it wasn't, really within the wheelhouse of what our goals were. Our goals were to pay off our house and be financially free of mortgages. And you know how life turns out. You have 4 kids and then one income and all that stuff, and then that's another odyssey too. So my mom passed away, and she left me an inheritance that was about the exact amount we needed for the down payment. And so we tossed that money of my mom's inheritance at the down payment for the fuel store. And that's how we were able to get into it without, mortgaging our house more or doing anything like that. We just got very fortunate, very lucky. We did the Soldovia, Alaska move. And of course we still had, money we owed for that. We still had to make payments toward the total purchase price of the fuel store, but the down payment had been handled by the inheritance, and that was and then we were in the bubble. This was 2005. So we were able to actually make a decent profit on the Woolley house because we only owed $110 on it. And so we went ahead and we were able to buy a $110,000 property in Soldovia, Alaska that was a former cannery building, and it was from 1948. It survived a 1964 earthquake and everything. So we bought that outright, and then we had enough surplus money from the sale of the Woolley house that was sold at kind of the bubble price. It was a little bit more. I think we sold it for $325 back in 2005, and then we owed the $110, so we had about $200,000 to work with. We bought the cannery property for $110, and then the remainder of that money we put into them remodeling that place because it was in tough shape, guys. It was a 1948 build with a 1973 remodel, and nothing had been touched since then. So we came in and we remodeled it. Hubs did all the work with the electric himself, and so we were able to keep it at $200,000. And we didn't owe any money on it. So at 30, 38, and 39, we had a 2,000 square foot house that we had all the kids in, and it was remodeled to new standards, and it was perfect, and it had a view of the mountains and a little bit of view of the water across the Kachemak Bay. It was very nice, and we stayed there for about 7 years, and Hubs had promised me, somehow I'll get you a place in Mexico, he said, so that you can stand the cold. We had that as a goal. We were there a couple years, and then Hubs took a mortgage out, a first mortgage on that house, just to buy a ruin in Mazatlan, and it was $48,000. And we also bought that ruin at a time of a little bit of a bubble. If it had been a little bit less of a bubble, because we got that in January of 2007, so we've been in Mexico part-time for 17 years now. This is our 17th season here. Anyway, so we went ahead and we borrowed against our house, $48,000. So then we had the mortgage on the Alaska house, but we were able to buy this other piece of property here in Mazatlan. Now let's talk about why we chose Mazatlan. Hubs had some boxes to tick. He wanted to be able to get to it easily with an airplane because we were going to be in Alaska and we didn't know how long. We figured for a while, and we were, but not as long as we thought we were, because that's the way we roll. There's always a new thing that we're squirrels. We're like, oh, we want to do this now, you know? And so that's what we did. And we chose Mazatlan because it was on the ocean. It had a good cost of living, and it was only a half an hour from a major hub airport. That was very important to us. So it ticked those boxes. We definitely didn't want to be somewhere where we were interior Mexico. There were places that were less money to buy into, and they were less money to live at, but they didn't have an ocean. And we really we're beach people, we're water people. We wanted to be real close to the ocean. We couldn't afford anything that was closer. We were about 12 or 15 minutes on a brisk walk away from where we could go to the beach with the kids. And that's what we could afford. If we had gone closer to the ocean, we would have been looking at 100 plus for a ruin or a property not in very good shape. It would have had view and stuff, which we cared about less. We actually cared about being able to access the ocean. But anything within a block of the ocean was way out of our price range. Like, we had to get into something no matter what its condition. And then we had to think that, okay, eventually we have to remodel this thing. And so we got the casa, and it's a row house, which means that it's bordered on either side and the back of it by other homes. So for us, that's what we could do, and we liked it. It had been built in, we estimate the 1870s. It had survived whatever hurricanes came through in Mazatlán, and that was another thing too, is that the eastern seaboard of Mexico was out because of the hurricanes. We just didn't want to deal with it, and we had looked into Mazatlan, and it's a very protected area. Yes, they do get hurricanes, but it seems like Maz just kind of misses the real humdingers. So we had a 100-year precedent of no hurricanes. The original roof was still on the house that we bought from 100 years ago. So it was good. And basically we bought the facade, which here is called the fachado, and then the rest was just basically property. It was in such ill repair with holes in the roof and everything compromised, and a cement floor that had been scored to look like tiles. I mean, it was really, and there was a big thing running through the house when they just came in and jackhammered a big trench through the house to get some kind of plumbing in the house. I mean, it was absolutely a teardown. And that's what we ended up doing. Basically, we got the house for $48,000, and that made us very small mortgage for our house in Alaska. And we ended up taking out a little bit more money just to get it livable in the beginning. So I think that was another $20,000. So we ended up having a mortgage around $70,000. And so that's how we got into the house in Mazatlan. This is just going to be a first video so that people understand what it took 17 years ago to buy a house. And I'm going to go all the way through all of it. I'm going to go, because now we're in a condo. We downsized after our kids were raised, and we downsized to this. But this plan was advanced because we weren't actually planning on moving from the casa at the time that we did. But there's a few things that happened that advanced our plan of downsizing and getting something easier for us to live in. This would not have been something we could have afforded back in the day. But because we lived in that house for a while, we were able to get some equity out of it and then apply it toward this condo. So that's a whole nother video, but I just want to address right now the recap. We put a first mortgage on our paid for house at 38 and 39. That's when we moved to Alaska. I think I was 37 that June, and then I turned 38 that July when we moved to Alaska, and Hubs is a year older than me, so that's where we were. We went down when we were married 20 years, and on our anniversary week, for our anniversary, we bought the casa, and that was in 2007, January of 2007. And it was an odyssey, remodeling that, having kids there, having them go to school there, who they married later. I mean, Maz shaped us in ways that we could estimate but never have anticipated. We estimated some of what happened there from having lived there and those experiences, but the benefits of living foreign so outweigh not doing it. It's not for everybody, guys. There was a lot of things that we needed to learn, but we were very willing. We had an open attitude and we wanted to do it very badly. It was very much #goals, okay? And so in my next video, I'm gonna address what it was like living there and kind of our day-to-day life and what to expect. And I'll also include, you know, some photos and stuff of our house, our casa. And it's not the same now, of course. You know, we've sold it and the gal is she's making it a vacation rental now, and it's been painted, you know, pastel Easter egg colors and stuff. I mean, it's a different house, but in the end of the day, even though my heart is in Mazatlan and that house was the most precious house to me as far as assets go, it is an asset. And that's how it has to be looked at. But it was an asset I loved. And I'm gonna talk about our life there in the next video. Anyway, if you guys like this content, please comment about what you think about me switching direction and offering a video once a month that's on a different subject other than nutrition, because I will be actually going into what I'm doing next. And just to touch on that very briefly here is that I am now calling myself the ketogenic faster. And I'm not scared to evolve, guys. I'm not scared to evolve. My goal is to find something that works well for me, supports my thyroid health, and gives women of a certain age, over 50 generally. I went into menopause quite late, so I'm a little bit of a, you know, original gal that way. But I want to support menopause, I want to support hormones, and I want to support my thyroid primarily. And so now I'm trying ketogenic fasting. And it's super exciting, and I think it's more in line with what I want to do and what will be sustainable for my life. Anyway, thank you so much for listening, and please subscribe and like this video.